So, welcome everyone. डैप का एनालिसिस एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट एनालिसिस है. तो आज वरुण सर हैं हमारे साथ, वरुण खुल्लर सर. प्रीवियसली ब्यूरोक्रेट खुद रह चुके हैं, इंटरव्यूज दे चुके हैं और स्टूडेंट्स को गाइड कर रहे हैं बहुत टाइम से. आपने हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे सबको बहुत बार देखा होगा. वेलकम सर.
Thank you so much.
एंड शिव्या. शिव्या है हमारे साथ. जैसे सेकंड इंटरव्यू दिया इन्होंने लास्ट ईयर, 2 बार इंटरव्यू दे चुकी हैं एंड हैज शी स्कोर्ड ब्रिलियंटली इन इंटरव्यूज. 187 स्कोर ट्वाइस. और इंसिडेंटली ऐसे वही जैसे सर बोलते हैं कि अगर इफ यू आर अ गुड कैंडिडेट यू विल स्कोर वेल एंड यू विल स्कोर वेल ओवर एंड ओवर. तो लास्ट ईयर शी गॉट थ्रू, शी गॉट IRS इनकम टैक्स. तो अभी जैसे आप सभी का इंटरव्यू है, तो यहाँ पर she'll be guiding you through how to fill DAF. DAF fill करना एक बहुत ही important एक चीज है. More so she is realizing it after having gone to academy. तो अकेडमी में जाने के बाद वहाँ पे ये रियलाइज होता है कि अगर डाफ जैसे कैसे और बेहतर भर सकते हैं, क्या उसमें हम चीज़ों को राइट इंपॉर्टेंस दे सकते हैं. तो सर एंड शिव्या, ठीक है, तो सेशन आप ही के द्वारा ही चलेगा.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
तो आप शुरू कर सकते हैं. एंड वी हैव जो स्टूडेंट्स विद अस एंड दे विल बी आस्किंग डाउट्स. वी आर लाइव, तो जो डाउट्स आएंगे आई विल बी कन्वेइंग दोज डाउट्स टू यू गाइस. ओके, ठीक है सर, ओवर टू यू.
Okay, so first of all, congratulations. This is perhaps the most exciting time in your life in the last few years, right? So once you are clear mains, so some of you who are taking it for the first time, I would be nervously excited. So I think that's very important. Those of you who have taken it before, might have a lot more worries than the ones who are taking it for the first time, I would say, right? First, let's try to just do a conversation about your experience in the interviews, if you mind.
Yes, sir. So my first interview was in 2019, and the second time I gave was in 2020, and coincidentally I scored the same marks in both of them.
Okay.
So my personal experience was there's a difference in the first interview and the next time that you give. So the first time that I cleared mains, so I was very excited that it was like there's a sense of feeling that you have accomplished everything now. कि अब तो हो ही जाएगा, अब interview तक पहुंच गए, so you'll reach the final list also. But again, it's a very important stage, very, very crucial stage. Especially I've seen how people get out of the list if they don't score well. Like the interview creates a difference of around 60-70 marks also, and वो cover नहीं हो सकता main से generally.
That's true.
So you have to work equally hard for this. You have to build a strategy. You have to know yourself better. So it was during the interview process that I realized what is the sense of civil services and what it takes to become a civil servant. Because till then we just study the bookish things or theoretical things. It's the interview that makes you more practical. So that was the experience.
So let's start. Let's look at the DAF 2, right? And that's the session today. So, if any of you are watching right now, feel free to ask any questions, but we'll go through the various sections. So the first section is that the prizes, medals, and scholarships. Now, normally what I've seen with most students is that, so what level we should write here,
Yes, sir.
right? So normally they prefer that if you have won something at a state level or a district level at least,
Yes, sir.
that is where they expect. So let's say you have an athletics sports person, so you have any kind of a medal there
Yes, sir.
in the district or state level, that is where it's expected.
Yes, sir.
Scholarships, obviously, a lot of students, because civil services is academically inclined, so a lot of you might have scholarships.
Yes, sir.
These might be from a private organization or a public one. So I always encourage people to write
Yes, sir.
these. The sports and NCC here, I believe like this is one area which most of us lack, but some of us might have done NCC.
Yes, sir.
Sports में I would say that in anything at a state or national level, अगर आपने so if you have something at that level, नीचे उसकी के साथ hobbies आ जाती है.
जी.
So I would encourage कि आप same लिखो,
जी.
right? Don't try to do a different hobby other than, let's say you
जी.
played national district level or state level sport, cricket, football, handball, whatever, badminton.
जी, sir.
So then you put the same hobby, because it's easier to prepare,
Right.
right? That would be the case. Then position of distinction or leadership in college. Now here, if you were the head boy in your school, mention that even if you, right? I would say that that is something is there seen well in civil services if
Hmm.
you have done that.
Hmm.
Then some of you might not have all these. You might say, sir, मेरा नहीं है.
Hmm.
So उसमें be positive about it still. जरूरी नहीं है कि हर चीज़ आपने
Exactly.
भरनी है,
जी.
ठीक है ना?
Hmm.
And normally सबसे important चीज़ तो शिव I think hobbies वाला है.
जी
I
sir.
think here I think why don't you give your viewpoint on that?
Yes, sir. So, sir, before that, I would just like to add, like, sports wala section, like you said, most of us lack at the section. So, I was the same. But here you can just fill in, like, अगर किसी ने NSS या कुछ ऐसा भी किया, so they can write that also. Otherwise, leave it blank. You just don't have to fill everything. There were friends who scored really well and they didn't fill the section. So, उससे I don't think the panel
Yeah,
is
definitely.
bothered much about that. Now coming to the hobbies section, sir, I think इसमें one or two should suffice. Even if you have more, it's okay. But those should be the one that you really pursue. Like you have in-depth knowledge about it, you have a passion towards that, and because वो in-depth जा सकते हैं उस section में, they'll want to understand you better in those terms. And in the hobby section also, for example, you can be a little specific, sir. I think जैसे हम कोई डांस करना पसंद करता है, कोई सिंगिंग पसंद करता है, but अगर आपका कोई particular style of dancing है that you like more or you pursue more, you can mention that. For example, in my case, I did Kathak, so I specifically mentioned Kathak dance. So what इससे क्या रहता है फ़ायदा कि the panel will be more interested to know
Okay.
कि मतलब एक ऑथेंटिसिटी आ जाती है कि आप कुछ
Yeah.
रैंडमली नहीं लिख रहे, यू आर बीइंग मोर स्पेसिफिक. सो उससे उनका इंटरेस्ट डेवलप होता है. एज फार एज माई एक्सपीरियंस, बिकॉज आई वाज आस्क्ड अबाउट कथक इन बोथ ऑफ माई इंटरव्यूज, तो आई थिंक वो एक इंटरेस्ट डेवलप होता है और आपका जो एक सीरियसनेस शो होती है इफ़ यू आर बीइंग स्पेसिफिक. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट सर, आई थिंक जैसे लीडरशिप जो रोल्स की बात करें उसमें भी आई थिंक अगर आपने छोटा मोटा रोल भी किया है बट जेन्युइनली किया है कहीं पे
Yeah,
भी ड्यूरिंग योर
definitely.
कॉलेज और स्कूल, यू शुड राइट दैट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ यू हैव बीन अ मेंबर ऑफ some committee during your fest, college fest or something like that, you can write that if you have worked in that aspect. So that is also the case. Yes sir.
Okay, so in extracurricular activities and hobbies, इसमें दो तरह से इसको I normally look into. So, if your hobby and your, let's say if I normally ask you, what is your greatest achievement in life till now?
जी.
So, अगर आपके वो hobby से related है, let's say if you said that what is the greatest achievement in life, and you say you performed in front of so many people in
Right.
Tego Theatre,
Yes.
and then I ask you what is your hobby, and you say Kathak,
Right.
so it becomes a one-to-one.
Yes sir.
ठीक है ना? So if that is the case, then I would say that your hobby would be prepared. Otherwise, anything you write, I would say that please prepare it to a level of 50 questions,
Yes sir.
right? So I would say that whatever you might write, there was this question that so only said that there's a hobby. He says my hobby is introspecting.
Yes.
I said totally fine, but there are various schools of introspection
Exactly.
in religion. So which school do you follow? And those kind of a long conversation can happen
Yes sir. Yes.
there. So it's not that only a practical knowledge is there. The academic knowledge again of that hobby has to be acquired.
Yes sir.
So take it very seriously, this section.
Yes, sir.
I feel that this gives you extra 20-30 marks if you prepare or answer well in your hobby.
Yes sir.
Those, civil services, most of those the members, they have very, very strong passions,
Yes sir.
right? So you would see them actually have done something really amazing.
Yes.
If let's say even your hobby is photography,
Right.
so you might meet this very senior civil servant who would have gone to every national park and shot,
Right.
right? And
Yes,
he
sir.
would have gone to shot this tiger here and then going to Ranthambore and doing another
sir.
one there. So they somehow expect that your hobby level should be like that.
Yes sir.
Though right now you might not have that. The other thing is that let's say you say, sir, that I don't have a hobby. Now here I always advise the students to go back in time,
Yes sir.
go back before class 10th,
Hmm.
and at that time what you used to do in your free time,
Yes.
right? Because these days the only hobby we have is Netflix.
So even people write that
Then
also, and
that's
it works.
fine, but you better then obviously again the depth is
Yes,
checked
sir.
there as
Yes,
well.
sir.
So
Yes,
last
sir.
series you watched,
Exactly,
and
sir.
if I ask you the director and you don't know, that's a problem,
Right, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
So those kind of
Yes, sir.
details,
Hmm.
so attention to detail is a quality that a
Exactly.
civil servant uh, is expected of.
Yes.
So they tend to check their that more. So so you can have very interesting hobbies. One of the students said my hobby is sleeping. I said there is a whole study on the whole science of sleeping,
Yes, sir.
right? So you better be ready for that. Okay, and most civil servants have trouble sleeping at night. I'm pretty sure they'll ask 10
Yes,
more
sir.
questions on that. How
Yes,
can
sir.
I sleep? If nothing else, they'll ask, how can I sleep better?
Exactly.
Right, I have trouble sleeping. So
Yes, sir.
the whole point, so the question might be innocuous,
Yes,
but your answer for the hobby question has to be very, very, prepared. Okay, it can't be whimsical.
yes, sir. And generally, sir, it's what I have experienced is that they don't mostly ask theoretical questions.
Mhm.
It's also that they're more concerned about if you're really pursuing that. For
Exactly.
example, one of my friends, he was into diary writing.
Mhm.
So the panel asked him about what kind of diary is he using currently, how many lines does he write in a single day, and all sort of those questions with which they used to judge if he's actually into
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So something like that.
So here's a question. The student has asked, Himanshu Chaudhary has asked, so can we fake a hobby?
Uh, okay, so first of all, you might not need to. As I've said, go back before pre-class 10th. Uh, if nothing else, you would play cricket in the mohalla, right, with your
Yes, sir.
friends, stapu, whatever. Okay. Uh, so during COVID, I think you would have got a lot of free time,
Yes,
right?
sir.
In that sense. So you might be studying, but I think during COVID, I think a lot of us reinvented ourselves,
Exactly.
right? So I am pretty sure you would have something if you think a little harder, but uh, faking
Taking it all together is not
doesn't
a good
work.
idea. I think you must have some interest in that, and in the next 1 month, maybe you can start at least so that when you go there, you have that confidence in at least that you have been pursuing that for at least 1 month.
Hands-on experience.
Exactly.
Pick
Because,
something which you have done in the past and
or at
might
least you have interest in that.
you might not have been doing it. See, class 11, 12, IIT, JEE, what PMT, whatever that starts. Okay? Then you do your bachelor's
College.
or right to again stuck there, and there you do things where जो लोगों को अच्छा लगता है तुम्हें शायद उतना अच्छा ना लगता हो, but what it's seen as cool, you start doing that. Okay, and your friends might play a certain sport and that's why you go and play that sport. You might not like that, but if you go back maybe in school, you might actually have a hobby. So just think, I think I'm pretty sure you'll find one, and if not, let's do a call.
And in the hobby section
later.
also, they have written extracurricular activities also. So you can write, for example, I had worked in an NGO, so I mentioned that in this section. So you can fill in those things.
No,
here.
that's acceptable as well, right? The most important thing I think what Shivya talked and is that mention your hobby in detail. Okay, let's say if you say dancing, give a specific dance
Yes,
if
sir.
possible, right? Because it opens too many things.
Yes.
Let's say if you say I'm interested in spirituality,
Yes.
it's too wide.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say you do meditation, again too wide.
Too wide. Yes,
Okay, so if you can mention a little specific,
so it gives
right?
direction to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
interview.
yeah.
Being
Because
specific.
otherwise, they will ask you to compare all the religions of the
Yes,
world, and
sir.
you'll be in trouble,
Yes, sir.
right? Okay, you might not have the bandwidth to actually answer that question.
Exactly.
Okay. So moving ahead, the next thing I think which Shivya, I think is perhaps the most important is the ranking of services. And you're fresh from Lavasna, and I think you met all of them,
Yes, sir.
right? Different services, and you being part of one.
Yes.
So what ranking would you suggest?
The ranking, I think it's very subjective and very personal. So it's not a fixed hierarchy of services that everyone would want to accept it that way. So I think when we fill, and I personally realized this after going to the FC, that when we fill the DAF and when we rank the services, we just rank it randomly कि ये नहीं तो ये मिल जाएगा. But all these services give you a very different lifestyle and a very different work profile. So you have to be very cautious while filling the ranks, while ranking these services. So So I don't think I'll rank any of these, but I can just say that each of these services gives you very different opportunities. So you should cautiously do the pros and cons as per your own expectations, as per your own personality. Because, for example, say IPS is altogether a different mindset as compared to foreign service. So you should know your own self, and it's not just that people say that this service is above that, so you should go by that. I don't think that is a good way to fill the preferences. So you should analyze the
Okay, so let's do it like I would say the conventional way for the time being,
yes, sir.
right? So like most of us, when we start preparing for UPSC,
Yes, sir.
our dream is to become a collector.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Though there are some people who want to work in foreign services, and
Oh,
some
yes, sir.
there is a there are people who have this natural flair for the uniform,
IPS, yes.
right? So they have that. I had a friend, so he filled IPS at number 1,
Yes, sir.
right, long years ago.
Mm.
So he said, I asked him.
Yes, sir.
He says, yeah, I wanted to join NDA, but I couldn't.
Mhm.
So here's my chance,
Yes, sir.
right? So that's there. I would say that so the reason why people prefer the IAS over other services
Yes, sir.
is the number of secretary rank posts which exist for
Yes,
them.
sir.
So if you after like 25 years of service, when you're senior enough, as a IAS, you'll get a chance to head a department
Right, sir.
in your state
Yes.
and maybe even in the center, and that is something which attracts most people.
Yes, sir.
Right, so the reason people fill IAS over others is maybe that. IFS, I think personality wise,
Yes, sir.
they really are amazing. Like you'll see them grow across years, and you'll feel that, yeah, my friend is now becoming more and more intelligent,
Yes, sir.
right? While I am at the same level,
Yes,
and
sir.
that's what all the different services. That's how we perceive
Exactly.
them. They're becoming more and more sophisticated. They're more well read,
Yes, sir.
and right, and people working otherwise in the grassroots level. That's how they feel.
Yes, sir.
Uh, but what happens is, let's say if you want to, let's say you want to live outside India
Yes, sir.
for majority. So in IFS, you'll have to live at least majority of your life, so half your life
Yes, sir.
abroad. But you can live half your life in India as well,
India as well.
right? So there are some posts in MEA, so there you can. But let's say you want to live outside, and let's say you want to become ambassador to a different country.
Yes, sir.
So after, I think, pretty early in your life, for a small country you can become,
Yes.
right? So at least right, 12 years, 14 years of your service, you become an ambassador to a small country. 18 years down the line, you become to a bigger country. So 18 years is like joint secretary level.
Yes.
Okay, that's how you. And then at the senior level, you can maybe even become at in USA or China, or I think Pakistan maybe is the most important, but these days we don't have a high commissioner there, right? But France, so many other countries. So and to interact with so many cultures,
Yes, sir.
and so that is the attraction towards. And historically, if you think about it, I think the IFS was the most coveted one.
Yes, sir.
Though it has changed across time, I think, because of globalization,
Yes, sir.
more and more Indians can go. Then if I look at the IPS, so this is long years ago, and this is when I was still preparing. So I met the DGP of West Bengal. So I am Calcutta doing my MBA, and at that time I met the DGP of West Bengal, and I asked him about the rankings because I was still about to fill my form.
Yes, sir.
So he says that the first 10 years of an IPS is better than any IAS officers.
Yes.
Right? He says, but it narrows down after it. You become senior in hierarchy. Though obviously we have now, I think we have options like NIA, etc. But it's still narrow.
Yes, sir.
Right? So they say, if you think about it, why people become IPS officers, there are 3 reasons. If you think about, one is I want to uniform. I love the uniform. Right? So that was one of a few of my friends. There's some of our students, they say किसी को ठीक करना है.
The sense of power, sir.
The sense of power, right? So there was one of my students, she was really interested in some guy, and he ditched her or something. She said, इसको ठीक करना है. I was like, वो तो IAS बन के भी हो जाएगा, मतलब really don't need to
Yes,
do
sir.
that. Okay. the third thing, the major I think reason is that जो in Hindu philosophy you have the Rajas gun.
जी.
So if you have that more,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
I think everybody knows themselves by
Yes,
nature.
sir. Yes, sir.
So then IPS
Yes.
suits you, and with that, I would say that you can even think of DANIPS and others as
Right.
well,
Hmm.
right? Just because अगर अब तुमने ठान ही लिया कि पुलिस में ही रहना है, तो that's also there. Then I think you know the if I look at the rankings, then the IRSIT,
Yes, sir.
right, is the most balanced work life that you can get, right? So I remember this is long back, and one of our students, she filled it on one.
Okay.
She says, I want to live in the city,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I don't want a field life and all that. And so IRSIT, I think, is perhaps the most interesting one. So yes, throw some light there, Shiv. Yeah.
So I would agree with you at all of those points. Like, objectively, if we look at it, so IAS is hands down the, the service that gives you the widest areas of work and also the fastest career progression. So there's no doubt about it. So that's why most of us sit for the exam as for the
Yeah,
IAS.
that's how we start.
Yes, sir.
Right.
But again, here, like people are confused mostly in IAS, IFS, and IPS. Generally, that's the confusion. After that, we know there's a more or less same hierarchy. I think these services, again, as I was saying, that all these provide very different life to you. So you have to be very careful. For example, when I was filling, so I had this doubt about IPS. So I talked to so many people, like, should I fill it? So people were like, no, ho jayega. Even if you're not interested, it's okay. But then I talked to one of my close uncles. He was in IPS. He's a retired person now. So he said one thing which I think it's very important, that IPS is a mindset. If you have that, only then go for it. Otherwise, you'll not be happy over there. So if you have that mindset of that, like you said,
Yeah.
so I think that's very important, that if you're ready, because all of these services have their own set of challenges. Like for example, in the foreign service, it's very charming and attractive that you would go to a foreign land, but at a personal level, you have to take certain tough
Definitely.
decisions. So if you're ready for that, only then you go for these services. And then, sir, again coming to the later services, I think again there is a confusion between IRSIT, customs, audit, accounts.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. Even I was confused last year to much extent. But again, you have to assess the pros and cons. There's not much difference between these all, like these three services in particular. There are some changes being done, like the faceless assessment in the income tax. But again, it's in a flux, so you can't really say what impact it's creating and what impact it will create in the long run. So again, you have to take a call. And what the aspirants can do is they can talk to one or two persons from each of these services and then decide wisely to place them, to rank them. And I
but the
think,
standard ranking is like IRSIT, then IRS GST.
so, but this
Yeah.
time it was a little,
So
because-
but in the long, I would say that because there are options of going to the Enforcement
yes,
Directorate,
sir, of course.
right? So the Revenue Intelligence, and like even if you want to go abroad in IRS, I think in
Yes,
the
sir.
future, definitely, let's say next 5 years, 10 years, like by the time I think you guys are there.
How does it compare with audit and account services?
Okay, we'll get to that. But let's say what I was talking was that at every embassy in the future, we are bound to have an IRS officer. That's bound to happen, right? Because trade has become the most important facet of any relationship with any other country. So that because of that, all IRS officers, I think even the GST ones, they'll get options to go abroad. So which was not there in the past, right?
Yes, sir.
So recently I heard one of my friends went to London, so that was like I was like, okay, right,
Yes.
this also is there.
International taxation is one area
so
that you
that's
work
one.
in.
Right? So we're talking about the audit account services, right? So अगर हम हिंदी में बोले तो वो दामाद है.
Yes.
So basically, so despite it's called audit and accounts, it's not really accounts.
Yes.
It's audit. And because you're auditor, you're picking issues in somebody else's, how the DC has spent, how a certain department has spent money. That gives you a lot of power over the people who have power, right? And that's why I said, you are the damat, basically. Yeah, right? So you are the person who has a very stable life, 9 to 5. You live in cities. Uh, you have opportunities for deputation. The CAG of India is known across. So I know the previous one of the deputy CAGs personally. So he lived in Oman for a while, right? Did stints with the World Bank, etc. So Indian Audit Account Services is well known across the world, right? Other countries want them to come and help them out in setting up, various. So there will be opportunities. If I compare them with IRS IT, I think it's more about you are in an advisory role. So it's like you're doing a post-mortem in audit accounts. In IRS IT, you're actually doing some executive work. So that is the only reason that you rank it above, right? Otherwise, it's a wonderful services.
You get to travel also a lot.
Yeah, the academy is very beautiful. Right. So if I think the Audit Accounts Academy, right, in Shimla, it's the most beautiful one. So that's there.
And then, sir, there's also more independence as far as I've heard, because it's under the CAG, and the progression and the promotional aspects are also more.
The only thing which is against us that you reach to a deputy CAG level. You don't become the CAG, right? So that is parachuted suddenly from the IAS. That is done so that the department doesn't pick too many issues with the rest of the departments, right? Because if you start nitpicking, I think there'll be nothing will pass, right? So that, I guess that's the case. But I really feel it's like if you want a nice 9 to 5 life and a good life, Audit Account Services perhaps gives you a better balance than any other services with no political interference. No little, basically, right? If you'll not get a call from a normal person, right? No MLA, no MP. Has to be somebody who is your boss or somebody like that, right? So that level of independence is there in the service. But the transferability is there, right? At a young age, you will be all across India, but you live in cities, so that's comfortable, right? And it's a good life, right? Okay.
I think, sir, that factor of instability is true for every civil service.
That's there, right? Because once you become senior level, right, you want career progression and you want right promotions. So for that, you would need to move to various parts of the country, right? Okay, so that's there. Yeah.
Railway Traffic Services, IRPS.
So they did the merger, right? So they were like railway traffic. There is railway accounts. There is personnel. There is RPF, right? So they merged that and they did IRMS. I'm not still sure that we have seats this year. I think next year we have. So this year it's like there was a student from Pondicherry, and the year he cleared there was no seat in Pondicherry Civil Services. So I said, we can fill it at above, but we're not going to get it, right? So that's what happened, and railways, wonderful houses, right? घर पे helicopter land करवा दो, इस type का आगे area होता है आपके पास. So that's because the colonial legacy is still there. But on the other hand, it is getting privatized. There's a lot of dynamicity there. But yeah, it still would be a wonderful service. But I don't think so this year we have seats. So, but if you think about ranking after audit, that's how we used to put it, and that's how we advise that it should be put, because still a lot of diversity is there.
Long working hours.
Traffic services, so IPS, so if you look at the long working hours, which we are not categorized in, so for IAS, the working hours till you're the DC is 24/7, right? At a lower level, it's a little relaxed. So if you raised him, you still might get a reprieve. As a DC, it's you know you can't leave the station and all that. That's there. But uh, IPS and traffic services are in hectic lifetime. Right? They're the most hectic jobs in India. Right? So you can call up your friend. You can call up the Home Secretary, and he'll have a conversation with you. But your friend in railway traffic will say that भाई करता हूँ call. ठीक है ना, right? And you would be talking in voice notes with that friend of yours, right? So that's the case. So it's hectic, right? So it's a tough job, but luckily you don't have to make that choice this year, right? Or you can put it anywhere you like. You're not gonna get it because there are no seats there. But yeah, logically after audit, right? So that's how you put it. इसके बाद I think the dicey thing starts,
Yes, sir.
right? So there is a debate, and so a lot of people say that IS नहीं तो छोटा IS सही. So they say that
Dynamics.
nah, let's do the annex, and उसके लिए हम बोलते हैं कि क्या आप दिल्ली से हैं?
जी.
मतलब ये पूछते हैं नॉर्मली कि स्टूडेंट से पूछते हैं कि कहाँ से हो,
जी.
तो दिल्ली रहोगे क्या?
हम्म.
बिकॉज इफ यू टेक दैनिक्स आप अपनी 35 साल की सर्विस में 30 साल दिल्ली हो.
Delhi.
सो दैट इज वन थिंग व्हिच इज देयर.
Yes, sir.
30 साल में आपको दो बार बाहर जाना है, एक हार्ड एक सॉफ्ट पोस्टिंग. दो पोस्टिंग होगी आपकी बाहर, तो उसमें 3 साल आप आप सॉफ्ट पोस्टिंग ले सकते हैं,
जी.
विच इज चंडीगढ़, गोवा, राइट. नाउ स्टूडेंट्स बोल रहे हैं सर गोवा कब से? सर मैं तो 30 साल के 30 वहाँ पे बिताने को तैयार हूँ. हाँ, वो भी ऑप्शन है आपके पास, राइट. बट यू लाइक दिल्ली, हेल्थ केयर फैसिलिटीज बहुत अच्छी दिल्ली में हैं, आपके पास डिसेंट पावर्स है, देन काफी डिसेंट पावर्स हैं, यू विल बी हैप्पी, right? Most of my friends who are in Dynamics, most students who are in Dynamics are happy. Okay. And some of them would have, even all of you might have prepared in Delhi. So you are comfortable living there. Okay. So that, but Delhi के साथ pollution मिलेगा. Let's hope that gets better.
Yes, sir.
Across years. So Dynamics normally उसके audit accounts, railways के बाद हम Dynamics, that is what we fill, Dynamics भरते हैं. अब उसमें अब ये है अगेन कि Dynamics उसके बाद भर दें सर कि ना भरें, तो इस टाइप का क्वेश्चन आता है. सो शिव्या, एनी व्यूज ऑन दैट?
So personally, I was not inclined towards IPS also.
Okay,
So मैंने तो IPS नीचे रखा था IRS से. So it's just that I don't see myself fitting into that service. So it's just even Danix also. I was little confused. Like I'm giving the other perspective. Like people told me, like I talked to some seniors. So they were like, Danix is a very good service, excellent service. Like you get to do the work similar to an IAS. But at the same time, since it's a Group B service, the career progression is very slow as compared to the other Group A services. So again, you have to take a call over there. What do you want? You really want to do that kind of work? Is the work important to you, or like you want to see yourself grow also at the same time? So again, you have to trade off between those
So
things.
a lot of field work you'll
Yes,
get.
sir.
Yeah,
Field
that's
work. Yes,
so
sir.
जो से स्टेट में PCS है
जी.
वैसे Dynamics
Danix
है.
है. तो वो चीज हो जाती है.
हाँ, इसमें लेकिन 2 साल हार्ड पोस्टिंग भी है.
जी.
ठीक है ना. तो हार्ड पोस्टिंग होती है लक्षद्वीप, अंडमान.
हाँ.
So some people might say सर स्कूबा डाइविंग करेंगे,
जी.
राइट.
हाँ.
लेकिन 2 साल स्कूबा डाइविंग नहीं हो सकती है, राइट. So that period, but I think
But in
that
terms
is
of the
to,
work, I think it
हाँ,
gives you
work
enough
is fine.
satisfaction. Yes, sir.
So मतलब जैसे अगर आपकी नेटफ्लिक्स देख देख के इच्छा है कि आप आइलैंड में रहें, राइट, और पूरा आइलैंड आपका हो, तो हाँ, राइट, आपकी वो 2 साल की हार्ड पोस्टिंग आपकी वो क्या कहते हैं दिल्ली इच्छा पूरी कर
Yes,
देगी,
sir.
right? But going back, I would still say that a lot of people have chosen it,
Yes, sir.
right,
Yes.
in the last few years,
Yes,
and
I
happy
do.
with it,
Yes, sir.
right? So I have a friend even in the police, right?
Dynamics. Okay.
Dynamics, right? So she is happy,
Okay.
right? So, but I think it's a mindset.
It's a
As you said,
mindset. Yes,
it's
sir.
a police is a mindset,
Mindset. Yes,
right?
sir.
So, how, there's so many things you can do. That's
Exactly.
what my uncle also told me that, right? पुलिस में आप 10 साल में जो difference create कर सकते हैं अपने
वही.
district में कोई नहीं कर सकता,
Exactly.
right? You can make it so safe and secure
Yes, sir.
for everyone, right? It's unimaginable,
Exactly.
right? So on the ground अगर आप we want to see your power,
Yes,
right?
sir.
I think that's the case. Okay.
There's a defense estate. Generally,
yeah,
people
yeah,
fill
yeah.
after that.
Defense state, yes, definitely. So I do. So a lot of you might not know about defense estate services. So the Cant में,
Yes.
so the lieutenant general is there. He's the head, the military head. But everything administratively goes through you. So the best part about that is you interact with the army people, and they are like you feel really, you feel good when interacting with them. So so that is the quality of your life, the quality of your what kind of क्या कहते हैं, request. So your interaction with the MP and MLA might make you feel कि मैं कहाँ गया हूँ, but when you interact with the general साहब, you feel कि जन्नत में ही है, right? So that is the feeling you get when you interact with the army defense personnel, the senior level defense personnel, and you would always interact with the senior level. So you
पर्सनली आपने डिफेंस स्टेट काफी ऊपर भरा हुआ था
जी सर।
तो इसका पर्सनल कोई रीजन या फिर लैक ऑफ क्लैरिटी?
नहीं सर, यही एक तो जो सर बता रहे हैं वो, उसके बियॉन्ड फिर कि आपको काम करने को मिलता है थोड़ा एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वहाँ पे। मे बी द एरिया ऑफ वर्क इज लाइक geographical area of work is limited, but you get to do some good work. And then other perk that people used to count in was कि घर बहुत अच्छा मिलता है। So but मेरे लिए उतना नहीं था, but again these things matter over time. एंड सर उसके बाद एक्चुअली इसलिए भी भरा था कि अकाउंटिंग वाला थोड़ा इंटरेस्ट कम था, तो इसलिए डिफेंस स्टेट को ऊपर रखा था। उसके बाद फिर डिफेंस अकाउंट्स और वो सब।
यूजुअली जैसे एकेडमी में देखें तो अगर अपनी बात की बात
जी जी जी,
तो डिफेंस स्टेट और लेट्स से जो रेस्ट ऑफ द सर्विसेज, कॉर्पोरेट लॉ और लेट्स से इवन जैसे पोस्टल टेलीकॉम,
जी सर,
इनको कैसे जज किया जाता है?
सर आई थिंक डिफेंस स्टेट ही ऊपर था मोस्टली लोगों का, जितना मैंने देखा था। तो मतलब डिफेंस स्टेट के 2-3 लोग भी, 1-2 लोग थे वहाँ पे, बाकी सर्विसेज के तो कम ही थे। तो जनरली लोगों का परसेप्शन ऐसा ही था। उसके बियॉन्ड से फिर और भी सर्विसेज आ जाती है, जैसे मैं पिछली सर्विस जो मेरी थी इंफॉर्मेशन सर्विस, उसके भी थे कुछ ठीक ठाक 2-4 लोग थे वहाँ पे। तो अगेन उसका भी लोगों को ज़्यादा पता नहीं रहता है कि इंफॉर्मेशन सर्विस।
So अब इसके बाद let's say if we guiding, we talk about कि Delhi based services कौन सी
जी
है.
जी सर,
So
हाँ जी
like a lot of students says हम यहीं पे पढ़े हैं इतने साल,
जी
अब यहीं पे
जी
नौकरी मिल जाए तो अच्छा है.
जी,
So so we say that civil accounts
सिविल
is
अकाउंट
seen to be very good because
Yes.
diversity सबसे ज़्यादा है इसमें.
जी
So defense accounts या railway accounts या right बाकियों से civil accounts इसलिए अच्छा है because आप एक मिनिस्ट्री से दूसरी मिनिस्ट्री शिफ्ट होते रहेंगे.
जी
तो अक्रॉस टाइम आप बोर भी नहीं होंगे,
हम्म,
राइट, उतना, एंड आपकी क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ भी ठीक रहेगी
जी
बिकॉज आप एक ही सिटी में चल रहे हैं, एंड सो दैट काइंड ऑफ हेल्प्स यू आउट.
हम्म,
सो सिविल अकाउंट्स नॉर्मली उसके बाद भरी जाती है. दो अगेन हम जब बोलते हैं एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शन वाली सर्विसेज, सो देयर इज पोस्टल सर्विसेज.
ये सब पोस्टल
पोस्टल बहुत
काफी
अच्छी है
रखते हैं, हाँ जी
बट ट्रांसफरेबल है.
जी
सो इफ यू ओके विद गेटिंग ट्रांसफर्ड, पोस्टल सर्विस में ऑन द ग्राउंड.
रिसेंटली इसे पोस्टल सर्विसेज ने अभी बैंकिंग
हाँ
ऑप्शन शुरू
एग्जैक्टली
किया,
यस
एग्जैक्टली.
सर,
तो काफी जो इसका डायमेंशन
एक्सपैंड हो जाएगा जी
नहीं, काम बहुत ज्यादा है. नहीं, इवन टू फॉरगेट अबाउट बैंकिंग से पहले भी. सो अगर आपको इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए
जी
अबाउट एनी प्लेस इन इंडिया, एनी मोहल्ला इन इंडिया, पोस्टल सर्विसेज के पास है.
जी
ठीक है ना, कहाँ क्या हो रहा है पोस्टल सर्विसेज डिपार्टमेंट को पता है, बिकॉज डाकिया हर जगह जा रहा है. ठीक है ना, हर गली में जा रहा है. आईबी वालों के पास शायद इतनी इन्फॉर्मेशन ना हो जितनी पोस्टल वालों के पास हो.
पोस्टल सर्विसेज में देयर इज दिस फेमस थिंग नो कि जो आईएएस वाली डेपुटेशंस पे डालते थे एट टाइम्स. Recently it was there with PMO.
जी
PMO was led by someone from postal services.
ओके ओके
And it has been a trend like for some last few years.
See, after a certain years, deputations will be there.
Will
So
be.
after 8 years of your service,
This is the only service which
हाँ.
gets it.
no, but there's a reason for that. As I said, the kind of experience on the ground, grassroots level experience, your postal में you'll have, you might not even get. So think about it. COVID में सब कुछ बंद था, right? Postal खुला हुआ था, और मे भी ज्यादा काम किया उन्होंने. द होल ऑफ इंडिया मेडिसिन भिजवानी किसने किया? पोस्टल सर्विसेज ने किया. ठीक है ना, और सब कुछ बंद था. ट्रेन बंद थी तो उन्होंने अपनी गाड़ियां चलाई. यहाँ तक ये था कि ट्रेन बंद थी पूरे इंडिया में, बट पोस्टल सर्विसेज चल रही थी पूरे इंडिया में. दे हायर्ड व्हीकल्स, दे sent vehicles from various parts to India, right? So कहाँ पे, right? So they have a very strong role on the ground, right? Obviously not that glamorous, but they have a very, very strong role. So and as you rightly pointed out, with the banking services,
Right.
their role will become more and more,
ITO का पार्ट बन गया
Yes, sir.
इंटरनेशनल टेलीकॉम
Yeah, yeah,
तो
yeah.
अकॉर्डिंगली बहुत सारे इंटरनेशनल पोजीशंस आ रही हैं इंडिया में
Yes, नहीं वो IELTS वो तो I think in time you'll find in most services there are a lot of opportunities, right? वो आपको because आपने चाहे आप कोई भी सर्विस ज्वाइन करें तो आप में प्रतिभा है तो it's just a matter of time you will get those deputations and those, because we are looking for people who can work.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, that is what the Indian government right now we had the Modi government was facing a paucity of officers. They're looking for people who can work, right? And they're looking at across services. So that
Yes,
is
so
the case.
that is increasing.
Yeah, that is increasing. इसके बाद अगर थिंक हम चलें तो हम पीछे से चलें तो आई थिंक लेट्स गो एट द बैक, राइट? सो नॉर्मली सबसे एंड में अगर हम बोलें तो हम डालते हैं ये पौंडीचेरी वाली सर्विसेज को बिल्कुल एंड में रखते हैं,
जी.
राइट? सो पौंडीचेरी सिविल सर्विसेज, अगर आप साउथ इंडिया से नहीं है, लेट्स से आप साउथ इंडिया से हैं तो अलग है बिल्कुल,
जी.
ठीक है ना? तो मे बी यू विल से दैट सर मैं तो यही चाहता हूँ,
जी.
राइट? बिकॉज इसमें पौंडीचेरी सिविल सर्विसेज में सबसे यूनिक चीज़ ये है कि आप पता ही है आपको, कुछ एरिया केरला में है, कुछ एरिया आंध्रा में है और कुछ तमिलनाडु में है, तो आपको 3 लैंग्वेजेस आनी चाहिए अक्रॉस योर सर्विस, राइट? यू लर्न 3 लैंग्वेजेस, मलयालम, तेलुगु एंड तमिल. तो कुछ लोग तो इसी से परेशान हो जाते हैं व्हेन दे आर इन सर्विस. जिनको ये मिलती है वो फ्रॉम समबडी फ्रॉम नॉर्थ इंडिया हु गेट्स इट, ही सेज कि एक ओके लेकिन 3 एंड इट इज नॉट एज इफ कि मतलब यू कैन नॉट, यू विल बी ट्रांसफर्ड, बट ब्यूटीफुल प्लेसेस ऑल ऑफ देम. सो क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ में मतलब माइट बी आई थिंक मे बी इवन बेटर देन अदर प्लेसेस, बट if you're from South India, yeah, maybe this is not at the bottom, but from North India, most people fill it. They generally put it down. Then अगर हम दिल्ली बेस्ड सर्विसेज बात करें, so in Indian Information Services, so अगर आप दिल्ली में रहना चाहते हैं, I think good choice, and it has other opportunities as well, right? If you're even from a small city. Shivya, yes.
So वही जब actually allot हुई थी, so even after being an aspirant into this whole process, I was very unaware of कि ये क्या मिल गया actually. So I had to talk to people कि exactly क्या है service में. So information service I found personally very interesting, and you get a good amount of a creative freedom in that कि आप बहुत mechanical technical नहीं है. It's more creative. So basic role of information service, it's under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, is to give information in the public. It's like the PR of the government कि आप जो मीडिया जो प्रेस रिलीज होता है वो सब चीज़ें. सो आई वॉज टॉकिंग टू माई फ्रेंड्स हु आर करेंटली परसुइंग दिस ट्रेनिंग. सो उनका काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग अभी ट्रेनिंग सेशन था. अभी उनका रिसेंटली फिल्म ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट जो पुणे में है उसमें उनकी ट्रेनिंग हुई. फिर उसके बाद उनका बजट के टाइम पे दे हैड वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग वर्क, लाइक जो उनको प्रेस रिलीजेस होते थे टाइम एंड अगेन. सो मतलब इसमें आपको एक एस्पेक्ट इसमें मार्केटिंग का भी मतलब सॉरी पब्लिसिटी का आ जाता है, एंड फिर देन न्यू मीडिया जिसमें हमारा डिजिटल मीडिया ट्विटर और वो सब आता है. तो टू मी पर्सनली इट फेल्ट कि ऐसी सर्विस है जिसमें आपको क्रिएटिव होने का स्कोप मिलेगा, जिसमें आप थोड़ा स्ट्रैटेजीज बना सकते हो कि आपको पब्लिसिटी कैसे करनी है. आपके अंडर फील्ड ऑफिसर्स होते हैं जो पब्लिसाइज करेंगे स्कीम्स को गवर्नमेंट की ग्राउंड पे जाके. सो आई थिंक and so is true for all other services. Like we have very little knowledge about it, so that's why we don't fill it. So वो चीज़ हो जाती है. Similarly for the trade service also.
नहीं, trade is seen as
very good.
Very good. So जैसे a lot of people say that कि इसको ऊपर भरना चाहिए.
There was one of my friends. She's now in IFS. उसका ऐसा था, she was in trade service. उसका ऐसा था foreign service first, second trade service. So it was like that. So
नहीं, it's the reason people don't fill trade above is because of it's a new service. 91 around I think start हुई थी. But अगर इसकी देखें so your interaction, so normally okay, quality of life किस पे depend करती है in service? आपका किससे interaction हो रहा है?
जी.
ठीक है. So अगर आप trade service में हैं तो आपका किससे reaction, आपका तो you will meet somebody who's a CEO of a MNC. ठीक है ना? तो आप किसी नीचे वाले लोगों से आप बात नहीं करेंगे. So normally what happens is अगर आप किसी पढ़े लिखे आदमी से बात कर रहे हैं तो normally आपका interaction काफ़ी अच्छा होता है.
जी.
सो जैसे आप बात करेंगे तो यू विल फाइंड द CEO ऑफ द अंबानी और द अदानी ग्रुप कमिंग टू यू एंड टॉकिंग टू यू, राइट. सो इन दैट सेंस आपकी क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ बहुत अच्छी है,
जी.
ठीक है ना, या रैंडमनेस कम है,
जी.
right. So that's why it is seen as very good. Or the fact is because obviously trade is so important to India.
Yes, sir.
अगर हम देखें तो perhaps अभी भी because India is a growing economy.
Yes, sir.
So this importance of this becomes this becomes very strong. The reason the information service में अगर मैं बात करूँ, so actually में तो because of the government wants it's the communication process to
Yes,
become very very strong,
Yes, sir.
right. There is an emphasis there as well. They want it to run well,
Yes, sir.
right. So information services, so इनको the reason I say that okay दिल्ली रहना है तो civil accounts, ISS, information, trade, corporate law.
Yes, sir.
अब corporate law maybe should be filled from somebody who has a law background.
Yes,
अगर
sir.
आप lawyer हो
जी.
तो corporate law आपको बहुत सूट करेगा.
जी.
At the end of the day,
Yes, sir.
right, you have 5 years of law experience and then Indian corporate law. आप ministry में बैठेंगे and
जी.
you will obviously look at various things. So again, so that would really help you, I think. So थोड़ा background base भी है,
जी.
decision हो सकता है. जैसे आप lawyer हैं तो corporate law को ऊपर
Yes,
मत
sir.
लीजिए, right, because quality of life तो आपका जो काम करते हैं उससे impact
उससे.
होता है.
Yes, sir. So all these services are, I think, excellent. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
which way you are inclined to. अगर आपका थोड़ा technical side जाने का मन है, तो you go towards similar service. Like corporate law is a little technical, I think. तो उस तरीके का.
So I think that is mainly it about the services, right? So Divya, now comes the most interesting part of DAF 2, right? And that is the cadre
Yes, sir.
for IAS and IPS. So Shiva, how did you fill it and what were your criteria there?
So again, I think it's very
So briefly, let's
हाँ,
talk about the zones first.
zones. So the cadre policy is such that you have to fill one home state, जिसको आप home अपना मानते हैं, वो कोई भी हो सकता है, ज़रूरी बहुत strict criteria नहीं है UPSC का उसमें. And then you have to select your zones. तो generally we have the north zone, central zone, eastern, फिर western zone आता है एक, तो साउथ एक जोन है अलग. तो जो कार्ड एलोकेशन पॉलिसी है पहले वो अच्छे से पढ़ लें, क्योंकि हमारा एलोकेशन ऐसे नहीं होगा कि एक जोन में पहले चलेगा. इट विल बी लाइक जोन 1 फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस, जोन 2 फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस, तो वो आपका ऑर्डर रहेगा. तो बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट हाउ, बिकॉज पीपल समटाइम्स आर नॉट अवेयर कि ऐसे प्रेफरेंस चलती है. सो मेरा तो एगमोट था अपना जो होम स्टेट था, तो वही मेरा फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस था. उसके बाद जो क्राइटेरिया आप देख सकते हैं तो उसमें यही रहेगा कि एक तो कि वो कार्डर, एक तो आपका होम कार्डर है या आप जोग्राफिकली वहाँ कंफर्टेबल है. पीपल बिकॉज इट मैटर्स ओवर टाइम कि आप वहाँ कंफर्टेबल हैं, आप फेमिलियर है उस जगह के कल्चर से और वो सब चीज़ें. देन सेकेंड इज़ व्हाट काइंड ऑफ वर्क यू विल गेट टू डू ओवर देयर. एंड ये IAS और IPS में थोड़ा डिफरेंट हो जाता है कुछ कार्डर्स में. कुछ कार्डर्स ऐसे हैं जिनमें IPS
कमिश्नरेट सिस्टम
जी कमिश्नरेट सिस्टम है जिनमें, जैसे हाँ जी महाराष्ट्र एगमोट, हाँ
महाराष्ट्र.
तो उसमें फिर आपको उस अकॉर्डिंग अपनी प्रेफरेंस चेंज करनी पड़ेगी. सर उसके बियॉन्ड क्या क्राइटेरिया रह सकता है, आई थिंक सर ब्रॉडली तो वर्क कल्चर आप पता कर सकते हो वहाँ के कुछ ऑफिसर्स से कि कैसा है, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ कल्चर सूट्स यू, वो भी मैटर करता है. आई थिंक ब्रॉडली यही है. बाकी तो आई थिंक एज एन ऑफिसर यू शुड बी रेडी टू गो एनीवेयर, बिकॉज आई हैव सीन जो हमारी रिसेंटली एक वीक पहले कार्डर लिस्ट आई थी. सो इट वाज दो आप अपने हिसाब से तो आप भर देते हो, बट इन द एंड आई फील दैट इट वाज इन द डेस्टिनी कि एक एक रैंक से आपका कैडर कहीं मतलब 30 रैंक को उसका होम कार्डर मिल रहा है, 31 को नहीं मिल रहा है. सो इतना आप दिमाग नहीं लगा सकते उस चीज़ पे. बट अगेन सर यू कैन
also when you have not been allocated
Yes, sir.
any services,
Yes, sir.
और अभी तो आपने इंटरव्यू देना है.
एग्जैक्टली. एंड फिर देन वैकेंसी भी बाद में आती है, सो यू कांट
मतलब इनसाइडर एंड आउटसाइडर
Outsider
अगेन इज देयर,
vacancy,
सो
वो
यू
रहता है.
डोंट नो कि आपको क्या मिलेगा.
एग्जैक्टली.
बट हियर बस जस्ट मेक श्योर दैट यू ये ध्यान रखिए कि जोन 1 के बाद की फर्स्ट चॉइस के बाद आपको जोन 2 की फर्स्ट चॉइस मिलने वाली है.
जी जी.
सो उस हिसाब से भरिए,
जी
वो ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है.
जी.
देन इट एक्चुअली में डिसीजन इन स्टेट्स मतलब कार्डर्स इज बेस्ड अपॉन आप रहेंगे कहाँ.
जी.
व्हेन आई से रहेंगे कहाँ, इट मींस आपकी डीसी शिप जब हो जाएगी, आप SP SSP बन जाएंगे, उसके बाद आपको कैपिटल में आना है.
जी.
सो कैपिटल कैसा है उस हिसाब से डिसाइड करना बेटर
वो
होता है
भी
rather than anything else,
जी
right? So some people ask me, sir, तेलंगाना कैसा है? I said हैदराबाद बहुत अच्छी जगह है.
यस सर
ठीक है ना, तेलंगाना कैसा भी हो, हैदराबाद बहुत अच्छा है
अच्छा
रहने के लिए.
जी जी
ठीक है ना. So
हम्म,
at the end of the day, 12 years down the line, you'll have to come back
जी
to, and you live the rest 25 maybe years of
हम्म,
your life in the state capital.
हम्म,
तो स्टेट कैपिटल के बेसिस पे डिसीजन होता है
जी जी
पहला तो.
जी
IAS IPS में कमिश्नरेट सिस्टम है,
जी
राइट. तो कुछ कैडर्स बेटर माने जाते हैं आईपीएस के लिए. महाराष्ट्र, मध्य प्रदेश आर सीन एज बेटर कैडर्स
यस सर
फॉर आईपीएस.
हम्म,
बट ऐसा कोई हार्ड एंड फास्ट
हाँ
रूल
जी
नहीं है. पीपल हैव डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंसेस,
यस सर
राइट. सम पीपल से वेस्ट बंगाल उतना अच्छा नहीं है, बट लेट्स से यू आर फ्रॉम वेस्ट बंगाल,
यस सर
सो ऑब्वियसली यू टेक इट,
यस सर
राइट. होम होम होता है,
जी
राइट. इट डजंट मैटर.
यस सर
ठीक है ना, कि कैसा मतलब, राइट, यू कंपैरेटिवली कैसा भी हो, घर घर होता है.
जी
ठीक है ना. एंड द कंफर्ट लेवल यू माइट हैव एट होम, एंड द थिंग्स यू रियली वांट टू डू, व्हाई यू वांटेड टू बिकम अ सिविल सर्वेंट.
राइट
ठीक है ना, यू वांट योर स्टेट और द प्लेसेस यू लिव, राइट, टू बिकम बेटर. सो वही तो अपॉर्चुनिटी चाहिए. सो उस वे में आई थिंक स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है कि आप चूज करिए जो आपको सबसे अच्छा लगता है इन दैट सेंस. बट गो, ये ना भूलिए कि जैसे आप लेट्स से आप यू फ्रॉम द नॉर्थ, so normally there's a tendency to choose Haryana first. There's a tendency, and you want Rajasthan, or right. So इसमें you have to understand that उसके बाद zone 2 आपको क्या choose करना है, decide करना है.
जी
How comfortable you are going to south or to the northeast. ठीक है ना. तो उसमें आप वेस्ट बंगाल चूज करेंगे कि सिक्किम चूज करेंगे,
जी
तो
जी
उस टाइप का क्वेश्चन हो सकता है आपका
जी
थोड़ा
सर
सा, right. So that is one. Other than that, I would say that it doesn't matter where you are. I'll be very honest about
yes
that. A lot of people are very unhappy in their home gardens.
yes
Then a
sir
lot of people are very happy outside.
outside
So, what you experience, you will have might depend upon
yes
once you join.
Hmm.
But people take it very मतलब, too seriously. I think अगर IAS IPS बने हो तो it's good enough.
yes sir
ठीक है ना, इतना सोचने की जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है ना. पॉजिटिवली चूज, एंड जीरो वीरो ना भरना ज़्यादा.
जी
ठीक है ना, उस पर सवाल ना मतलब देयर वर फ्यू स्टूडेंट्स ने थोड़ा जीरो भर दिए थे, तो बस डोंट डू दैट. फिल अ चॉइस. ठीक है ना, चाहे थोड़ा पीछे ही भरो.
yes sir
अच्छा हाँ, हिल स्टेट्स का हो सकता है. Okay, a lot of people, not many. So if you've never lived in the hills,
hills yes sir
so it might be hard for you. ठीक है ना.
Hmm.
लाइक जैसे पर्सनली आई हैव मोशन सिकनेस.
yes
तो भाई ड्राइवर तो गाड़ी चला नहीं सकता, मुझे ही चलानी पड़ेगी. ठीक है ना, राइट. सो दोज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स, इफ यू हैव एनीथिंग लाइक दैट,
yes sir
तो वो अलग क्राइटेरिया हो सकता है कि यार पहाड़ में उल्टी आती हैं. तो दोस्त
This is, for example, a state like Himachal.
हाँ
There are places like, let's say, Kalpa,
हाँ
and then there is जो बिल्कुल
Lahore,
plain में आ जाता है,
Spiti,
Una.
हाँ
Una.
एग्जैक्टली.
They're 2 days apart.
हाँ.
It's a small state, yet
Yeah.
the places are 2 days apart.
yes sir
आपके अगर spouse अगर 2 different location पर आओ,
locations पे
तो you're 2 days apart.
Yeah, so Himachal obviously is a unique state, I would say. Even I think
उत्तराखंड
उत्तराखंड में अब तो बहुत ज़्यादा डेवलपमेंट हो रही है. So and even let's say some people say छत्तीसगढ़. So I say DC सबसे जल्दी वही बनते हो. ठीक है ना. जैसे JNK, राइट. तो आप बहुत यंग एज में डीसी बन जाते हो, 3-4 साल में आप डीसी हो. ठीक है ना. सो दैट इज समथिंग दैट यार तुम ऑब्वियसली क्यों बनना चाहते थे, आई गेस. तो रीजन तो यही है. सो द लॉन्गर time you can become a DC, that's better, or the earliest you can become. So उस वे में I think certain states might have some, but again I think most of us would choose something from the home and then
yes
go
sir
close
again I
by.
have my friends though from Himachal they are getting the home garden only so it was their first preference so again it matters on your subjective experiences and your preferences
Right, because जैसे हमने बोला बाद में तो शिमला में ही रहना है. ठीक है ना. तो you live in the capital, so that is the case.
There's a question here. A student is asking if I choose Hindi medium for interview, and will it affect his chances of becoming an IFS officer?
नहीं नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
no sir I don't think
ट्रेनिंग में सी, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इंग्लिश तो शायद आपको बोलनी ना पड़े. जैसे लेट्स से यू गेट अफ्रीका, तो आपको स्वाहिली आएगी, आपको सिखाई जाएगी. ठीक है ना. लेट्स से आपको जॉर्डन, सीरिया वाला रीजन दिया, तो आपको अरेबिक आनी चाहिए. राइट? आप चाइना वाली अंग्रेजी में बात तो करते नहीं है, वो तो चाइनीज में ही बात करेंगे आपसे।
हम्म,
सो हमें लगता है अंग्रेजी की इंपॉर्टेंस है, बट उतनी नहीं है, एक्सेप्ट फॉर द एंग्लो सैक्सन्स, दैट इज
हम्म,
यूएसए एंड यूरोप। एंड यूरोप में भी अगर आप यूके को छोड़ दो तो बाकी कोई नहीं बोलता,
जी,
ठीक है ना? पेरिस जाएं आप, इंग्लिश में वो कितना बात करेंगे, आपको
जी।
फ्रेंच में ही बात करनी पड़ेगी, आपको फ्लेमिश बोलनी पड़ेगी, आपको लैंग्वेज सिखाएंगे,
They
डोंट
have a
वरी अबाउट
proper
दैट।
language
So,
training.
so that is there, right? 3 years you have a,
It
so
will not impact his chances of becoming a
no,
lawyer.
not at all, not at all. तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, right? So I would say that maybe advantage हो सकता है कि ओके, राइट, हाँ, कि इफ यू लाइक आपको इंग्लिश नहीं आती है तो मतलब आपके पास काफी स्पेस है, कुछ नई लैंग्वेज सीखने का शौक भी होगा आपको,
So there were
राइट?
many people in the FC जो ऐसे आए हैं, तो I don't think it should be a problem. Yes.
ओके, सो कैडर्स का मतलब हमने जो ब्रीफली डिस्कस किया, एनीथिंग एल्स मतलब जो
So other than that, I think fine. It's you just have to be careful about each and every word you're mentioning in your DAF. Maybe your address, कुछ भी है,
हाँ हाँ
तो
हाँ
वो भी बहुत carefully. Even in 2019 I had filled my mother tongue as Hindi, जो कि मुझे काफ़ी मेन इंटरव्यू में तो नहीं बोला, बट मॉक इंटरव्यूज में बोला था, बिकॉज आई एम अ कश्मीरी. सो ऐसे मतलब यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल. सो माई मदर टंग इज़ कश्मीरी, बट उस टाइम मैंने ऐसे ही फिल कर दिया बिना ज़्यादा सोचे. तो ऐसे आप एक एक चीज़ पे बहुत अच्छे से डबल वेरीफाइड कि विल यू बी एबल टू
नहीं,
जस्टिफाई.
एक चीज ध्यान रखिएगा कि इंटरव्यू में ना, आप अगर आपने कुछ लिख दिया है डाफ
जी.
में, अगर गलत हो गया है तो ब्रिंग इट टू द नोटिस वेरी क्विकली, राइट? लाइक कि यहाँ तक कि रजिस्टर्ड पोस्ट में चेंज करके भेजना, ठीक है ना? दैट इज व्हाट यू डू, ठीक है ना? सो दैट इफ यू नो देयर इज सम मिस्टेक, राइट, ऑन द सो ये चीज बहुत जरूरी है कि कोई गलती ना हो, या अगर हो गई है तो वहां पे लेट्स से वन ऑफ आवर फ्रेंड्स, तो वो पीएचडी कर रहे थे इकोनॉमिक्स में,
जी.
बट उन्होंने फॉर्म में नहीं फिल किया हुआ था,
अच्छा.
राइट?
हम्म.
ओके, एंड यू नो बिकॉज आप देयर लॉट ऑफ यू नो पीपल हु इंटरव्यू को मतलब उतना सीरियसली लेते नहीं है.
लेते नहीं.
सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट वो अब इंटरव्यू देने गए, राइट, बहुत अच्छी चल रही है इंटरव्यू, इकोनॉमिक्स से पीएचडी कर रहे हैं, आता है उनको सब्जेक्ट, डिस्कशन हो रहा है, इज इंटरैक्टिंग वेल, एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग फाइन, एंड देन somebody asked, so what are you doing these days?
ओके.
And at that time he answered that, so I've enrolled in PhD. अब वो फॉर्म में नहीं था, अब that becomes an issue there. So अगर कुछ फॉर्म में नहीं है, so there you know मतलब
Either make it clear
हाँ,
at the very
very
beginning.
very beginning this has to be done, कि what है, because you know even if let's say sometimes क्या होता है, you are in service and वो इसमें आता नहीं है,
जी जी.
let's say आप किसी स्टेट सर्विसेज में, वो फॉर्म में नहीं आया, so वो चीज मतलब is something that has to be communicated
In
somehow.
my case also it was not mentioned, like my
Exactly.
information service में थी, because I had joined later after filling that form. So I think those things will be handled if you be clear from the very
Exactly, मतलब
beginning.
ये so most people hesitate in
जी.
the interview in introducing themselves
जी
properly,
जी जी
right? So that kind of make a difference. So वो या तो बिल्कुल बात ही ना करो,
जी.
ठीक है ना, right? Because at that time, you know, giving new information to them is like opening a new front in the interview. So uh, so any final tips you have, Shivya?
So I think थोड़ा सा don't think too much, overthink about filling the DAF or preferences, because you have to work on those things also. And I think जैसे ही schedule आता है तो उसमें start जल्दी हो जाता है, unless you have your interview towards the end. Otherwise बहुत कम time मिलता है जिनका start में होता है. So you have to work on those things. Even your name, your roll number, आपका address, every word you have to prepare something on that, some questions on that. So don't overthink, but be very cautious when you're filling. So be authentic. I think that's the most important thing.
That is true. So this is one thing which I will also say to all students, that don't forget that you have worked far too hard कि तुम किसी और की आइडेंटिटी लेके क्लियर करने की कोशिश करो. What you should definitely do is that अपनी सबसे पॉजिटिव साइड दिखाओ,
Yes, sir.
बट वो तुम्हारी होनी चाहिए,
Exactly.
मतलब किसी और की नहीं होनी चाहिए. So you don't have to act
Yes.
like somebody else,
Yes.
but show us your most positive side.
Yes,
And that is what the interviewer is actually
about.
looking for.
Yes, sir.
They're looking for also.
Yes, sir.
They want to select you, don't forget that.
Yes, sir.
Right? Though, despite the fact you might feel it's a very unequal battle, 5 लोग हैं और तुम अकेले.
But
ठीक है
sir,
ना?
they're very cordial.
हाँ.
Like unlike the
Yeah.
mock interviews that we see on the internet,
Yeah.
they are very cordial. They're
नहीं,
very
see,
cordial.
so at the end of the day, they're all briefed
Yes, sir.
to be cordial.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you are like their children only in age.
Yes, sir.
Most of them have children your age,
Yes, sir.
so they don't really need to scold you, and they're you're doing something which they also did maybe 30 years down the line, right? Before, right, they used to also be in the same chair, so they know what you're thinking. Definitely. So the most important thing in this frame, I think, a mindset has to be very positive.
Yes, sir.
About I think the most important rule, right, Shekhar sir, is that कि अगर दूसरी तरफ से कुछ भी आ रहा है, आपको positively reply करना है. ठीक है ना? Most people tend to कुछ उधर से कुछ negative बोला तो आप negative बोलना start कर देते हैं, because human mind by nature negativity को attract करता है. ठीक है ना? It's easier. ठीक है ना? तो example is our Facebook, Instagram, etc. Right? All social media and even the TV channels. But as a civil servant, you are supposed to be the most positive person in the district, in the department, because you drive everybody down.
Yes.
Right? अगर आप काम करने को तैयार हैं तो पूरा डिपार्टमेंट काम करेगा आपके साथ. ठीक है ना? So that is how it is. So that's why they look for a very positive person.
Another thing also, sir, I think when you go in the interview, don't go with any preconceived notion or bias कि पहला question ये पूछेंगे या for example, this time I was not asked even a single question about Jammu and Kashmir, but I belong to that state, I expected, and my chairperson was also from that state who had worked in that state, so I was expecting कि पहला question अब almost interview उसी पे जाएगा, but not even a single question, not much questions on the DAF also. It was very random this time. So I think आप कोई perception से नहीं जाओगे, it will be easier for you to handle.
Definitely, I would say that. So sometimes ऐसा होता है कि you think कि sir current affairs नहीं पूछते हैं, लेकिन पूछ लेते हैं, आपसे पूछ लेते हैं, right, suddenly, and you're like कि sir ये तो किसी से नहीं पूछा और अचानक, right? So you don't know, but remember, irrespective of the fact that interview में क्या हुआ, आपके marks, आपके जो आप रिप्लाई कर रहे हैं उसकी टोन पे डिपेंडेंट है.
जी सर.
ठीक है ना? rather than what you content of that, right?
And
content
don't judge yourself during the interview. वो भी बहुत होता है. You keep on assessing yourself while you're speaking over there.
Yeah,
so that's also one
right,
thing that goes wrong.
अब see, assessment का काम किसी और का है,
जी सर.
उन्हें करने दो.
जी.
Right, so काफी बड़े हैं वो, मतलब I think they're very senior to us.
There's another question. This student is asking that he's forgotten what he studied in his graduation.
Okay.
So how to go about it?
So I think basic subjects you'll have to prepare, because उसमें कोई option नहीं है. Like us engineers, हम तो बिल्कुल graduation के time नहीं हमें पता होता क्या हो रहा है, तो but we have to like refresh some certain basic concepts about it. So we'll have to do that much.
अच्छा, so इसमें इसको दो तरह से देख सकते हैं. एक है कि आप बोलो कि मुझे आता ही नहीं है, उसकी एक प्रॉब्लम है. अगर आपसे, जैसे मैंने 10 क्वेश्चन पूछा आपकी ग्रेजुएशन के बारे में और आप नहीं रिप्लाई कर पाए, तो क्या आपका टोन कम हो जाएगा, या क्या आप डाउन हो जाओगे इन द इंटरव्यू? अगर हो जाओगे तो प्रॉब्लम है. ठीक है ना? राइट? तो हेंस शिव्या सेज की थोड़ा तो प्रिपेयर कर लो.
सब ऐसा हो सकता है कि ना भी आए, बट अगर आप बिना पढ़े जाओगे तो आई थिंक वो आपका कॉन्फिडेंस शायद
इम्पैक्ट हो जाए. आपके बैक ऑफ द माइंड में है कि आप करके नहीं गए, वो आपके अगेंस्ट जाता है. सो एंड इसमें हमेशा ध्यान रखना कि उसकी क्या आपके ग्रेजुएशन वाले सब्जेक्ट की वैल्यू है. यस एंड नो एट द सेम टाइम. यस, बिकॉज दे लुक एट कि यार कितना डेप्थ ऑफ इंटरेस्ट है. राइट? ग्रेजुएशन सब्जेक्ट 3-4 years चलता है, तो आपको कोई ना कोई सब्जेक्ट में तो इंटरेस्ट आएगा. अब ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता आपको कुछ भी नहीं पसंद हो. ठीक है ना? राइट? सो पिक 1 or 2 subjects and prepare them. Right, get an interview done in your graduation subject, right, with your old professors or something. So graduation के questions अगर हम कोई पूछ रहा था तो I'll say जो वाइवा में होता था ना कॉलेज में, वही होगा. Because normally what they do is that they pick up questions from the vivas of college, because there's normally one professor from IIT who's there in the interview. So अगर वो electrical engineering का है और तुम electrical हो तो हाँ सवाल हो सकता है. right? But normally ज़्यादा सवाल नहीं पूछे
नहीं
जाते
पूछे
हैं,
जाते
नहीं
हैं।
पूछे जाते हैं, unless you have some work experience.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Right. So
There's a student who's in state services and he's not mentioned that in the DAF.
वो हो सकता है कि मेंशन
बाद
जगह
में
जगह ना हो,
ज्वाइन किया हो, ऐसा
बाद में
कुछ हो
ज्वाइन किया हो,
सकता
ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है, या जगह मतलब उसमें कुछ
है। सर होता है वैसे,
एक्सपीरियंस का
नहीं होता है,
आई थिंक मेरे
बट
को उस
इस
टाइम
फॉर्म
पे
में नहीं होता है शायद।
अच्छा
सेकंड वाले, अभी
second-
वाले पिछले वाले में था, मेरे साथ भी सेम हुआ था। आई डिडंट मेंशन अबाउट इन्फॉर्मेशन सर्विस, सो बिल्कुल स्टार्ट में ही सर ने पूछ लिया था कि व्हाट आर यू
Oh,
बीन डूइंग,
normally
सो
that
आई टोल्ड एट
conversation,
दैट टाइम।
see,
Okay.
हाँ,
so normally that conversation is normally there,
हाँ,
that in the interview, okay, what are you doing these
Initially.
days?
If you wish to share,
if you wish to share, or you can
Yeah.
just tell them, sir, that there's some information missing in my DAF, so
ठीक है ना? So वो स्टेट सर्विसेज वाला तो फैक्ट है कि नॉर्मली हमारे टाइम पे तो जगह ही नहीं होती थी उसके लिए कि कहाँ लिखें.
अच्छा,
इफ यू हैव नॉट, अगर ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस आपका, बिकॉज वर्क एक्सपीरियंस में लिख सकते हो,
जी जी
दैट इज द ओनली प्लेस यू कैन. अगर लेकिन आपने ज्वाइन ही बाद में किया
जी,
लेट्स से, तो वो तो नहीं होगा. नॉर्मली ऐसा होता है. अगर ओके, अगर एक्चुअली मिस हुआ है तो मतलब मेंशन दैट, राइट? अलग से अटैच, एक शीट अलग से अटैच होके चली जाती है, यूपीएससी को इन्फॉर्म कर दो, वो एक अलग से डैफ के साथ एक स्टेपल मार देंगे, राइट, इन्फॉर्मेशन मिसिंग करके, ठीक है ना, वो हो जाता है, ठीक है ना, दैट कैन बी डन.
and a student took almost 6.5 years
Hmm.
to complete graduation because of various medical issues.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
so he can justify on
वो
those grounds
कोई
itself.
सी मेडिकल इशू छोड़, वैसे भी अगर doesn't matter, ठीक है ना. This is the only exam where
Yes,
we
sir.
bother about your grit,
Yes.
your perseverance, ठीक है ना. देयर आर अदर एग्जाम्स इन इंडिया जहाँ आईक्यू मैटर करता है, ठीक है ना, जहाँ पे आप कितने इंटेलिजेंट हो उसको वैल्यू कर रहा हूँ. सिविल सर्विसेज में परसेवेरेंस और ग्रिट की लड़ाई है सिर्फ. तो वो आपकी देखते हैं ग्रिट की, ठीक है, तब जैसे भी था, however whatever person you were at that time, what has now made you a very responsible and serious person. इसकी तैयारी तो आसान नहीं है. अचानक
जी
क्या हो
सर.
गया, right? Even let's say you used to fail in college, let's say, or in school. Now what happened that you've become this person who is so persevering and so gritty, because अगर आप you are not that academically inclined, so it would be much more tougher for you than somebody who's not that person. So I would say that कि अगर they really don't bother, ठीक है ना. अगर वो पूछ भी रहे हैं, let's say I'll give you a very different example. So a lot of students have this question कि मेरा सर गैप बहुत है,
Gap years, yes.
कि मैं बहुत साल से कोई जॉब नहीं कर रहा हूँ. I said वो तो एक्चुअली तुझे जॉब दे रहे हैं, so anyhow not bothered about that,
Yes, sir.
ठीक है ना, right? It's not something. So
It's a tough exam.
It's a tough
it's a
exam.
tough exam
Takes
anyhow.
time.
नहीं so सबकी अलग वो है यार, मतलब सिचुएशन अलग है,
होती है जी.
राइट. एंड लास्ट 2 years तो वैसे भी कोविड इयर्स हैं. सो मतलब ये 2 साल तो अगर मतलब देयर आर पीपल हु हैवंट बीन एबल टू स्टडी, ठीक है ना, राइट. एंड इफ यू आर टेकिंग द एग्जाम, सो इफ यू थिंक अबाउट हाउ मेनी पीपल फेल सिक आफ्टर द एग्जाम,
Yes,
राइट,
sir.
इवन राइटिंग. एंड कुछ लोग तो ये है कि जीएस के एग्जाम के बाद हम वो ऑप्शनल देने ही नहीं आ पाए.
देने नहीं आ पाए.
So those kind of things happen. So it's a very tough thing. So उसको कभी भी, जैसे मैंने बोला ना कि नेगेटिवली ना लो. उनका क्वेश्चन नेगेटिव नहीं है. उनका क्वेश्चन है कि अच्छा, so let's say Shekhar sir is there, and I ask him, Shekhar sir, what have you been doing for the
Doing,
last few years, right? And so
Yes, sir.
even if you say, sir, I have been preparing, okay. So my next question can be, अच्छा, so what's your schedule like? Right?
Yes, sir.
How have you
उसमें-
been preparing? It might not be कि I'm like actually pinpointing, ठीक है ना. मैं आपकी कोई मामा फूफा नहीं हूँ जो मतलब some vendetta है मेरा आपके against, ठीक है ना, right? I am somebody who just wants to understand that how have you been keeping yourself busy, right? Because mains के बाद तो free हो,
जी.
तो उस टाइम पे क्या किया?
I also had this doubt, and in that I had prepared कि आप अपनी hobbies mention कर सकते हो if you have seriously pursued any. So I had restarted joining my Kathak classes and उसमें digital illustrations. So I had decided that I'll say those things if they ask me what have you been doing. So I can relate that to my optional sociology, that after studying sociology I started developing interest towards the social issues and started drawing and putting those on social media. So I think there are fillers, you just have to understand yourself better. जहाँ आप वहाँ से
Very connectable dots.
connectable. Yes sir.
So see, as I've said कि दूसरी तरफ वो नेगेटिव नहीं बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर आपको नेगेटिव सुन भी रहा है ना, तो आप पॉजिटिवली रिप्लाई करिए.
जी.
That is the only thing I will suggest that. इसके लिए normally I say that कि during interview prep ना आप सब सिर्फ लोगों की तारीफ करिए. कि next, let's say आज to date is
20th.
So next, let's say जिस दिन तक आपकी इंटरव्यू है, उस दिन तक आपको जो मिल रहा है सिर्फ उसकी तारीफ करनी है. Right? Don't focus on the negatives for this phase of your life. Say just positive things about anyone. जैसे अगर कोई मम्मी ने खाना बनाया तो उसकी तारीफ कर दो. आपके छोटे भाई बहन ने कुछ आपके लिए किया तो उसकी कर दो. मतलब कोई काम वाली वगैरह कुछ कोई बंदा तुम्हें हेल्प करता है तो say only positive things. So you have to avoid, because what happens is human being, हमारे nature है. We easily get, हम नेगेटिव सोचने के लिए हार्डवायर्ड है, बिकॉज वो एवोल्यूशनरी ट्रेट है हमारा. साइकोलॉजिकली एवोल्यूशनरी ट्रेट है हमारा. हम उसी तरफ सोचते हैं. सो पॉजिटिवली सोचने की जरूरत है एक तो वैसे भी हमें. हम राइट. सो बट फॉर द इंटरव्यू फेज एटलीस्ट, वैसे तो जिंदगी में भी बहुत अच्छा रहेगा अगर आप कर पाए. राइट. लेकिन अगर आप यू नो ड्यूरिंग दिस जेन्युइन कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स, मतलब आई वुड से इफ यू स्टार्ट गिविंग टू अदर पीपल इन द नेक्स्ट, तो ऑटोमेटिकली यू नो इंटरव्यू में दिखेगा आपका वो, बिकॉज फिर आपको फेक नहीं करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है ना. सो दैट्स व्हाट आई सेड. जो से आई थिंक आया था हॉबी का फेक करने का, मतलब आपका जेन्युइन होगा, जिसे आप जेन्युइनली कॉम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं किसी को. ठीक है ना. ऐसा नहीं है.
So people write very varied hobbies. किसी ने लिखा था talking to people ऐसे करके. तो ऐसा उसका फिर एक्सपीरियंस था कि मैं पैनल में उन्होंने पूछा कि ऐसा कोई दोस्त बना फिर आपका. His hobby was talking to strangers, something like that. And then he said that I talked to one person and she's now my girlfriend. तो इतना भी candid हो जाता है. And this is the actual interview. So it happened that way. So I think you just have to think more about your own self कि कुछ तो authentic मिल जाएगा. तो वो चीज़ है.
Right.
Very good. And thank you.
Thank you, Shivya.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So you just come from Labasna, so right, you've taken your time. That's so nice of
and
you.
Maybe if you could share a couple of things about Labasna.
Yeah. Right. Anything.
So as I mentioned that initially it was a very overwhelming experience because I had gone there after 2-3 years of preparation. तो वो बिल्कुल एक isolation से एकदम से 400 लोगों 500 लोगों से interaction. That was overwhelming initially, and the schedule is also very tight, and you have to run changing uniforms and वो सब हो रहा था. But now that I look back towards those 100 days, so it was a very enriching experience. Like you get to know yourself better, you get to know how to interact with different kind of people, because there people come from very different backgrounds, very different. Like some of them you really develop respect for कि ऐसे लोग आए हैं तो हमने तो कुछ किया ही नहीं है, मतलब इतने challenges लेके आए हैं, इतने different backgrounds से आए हैं, and you start respecting different perspectives, different cultures. So वो काफ़ी अच्छा experience रहा overall. So
Abhi you headed to Nagpur.
yes sir.
So वो तो I guess would be slightly, I would say, better than the Labasna.
Better in maybe some terms, and some terms.
It's a huge academy and a lot of people, because it was designed for I guess 350 people.
Yes sir.
Now there are 50-60 people.
Yes sir.
So accordingly,
छोटा smaller batch and
Smaller
more
batch,
infrastructure.
more infrastructure. Motivates a lot of people to become part of such an ecosystem.
Yes sir.
नहीं मतलब so
But
that's
overall,
true.
Labasna was the Himalayan trek and everything was really enriching and great, I think. Overall.
नहीं, I think because इनका तो और अच्छा है because in last 2 years COVID years.
Right.
So after that, finally we had a full-fledged.
In our case, also 1 month was lost because of COVID.
Exactly, but
Almost.
yeah, but
like-
still, I would still say that
Yes
you know
sir, as
कि
compared to the previous year.
previous year. So
Yes, sir.
you know, I think it would be a beautiful experience.
Yes sir.
I know. I hope this year, right, people who get selected,
Yes,
they
sir.
have, I think,
The true experience.
they
actually.
join Labasna at a normal time.
Yes sir, and ours was the first winter FC, so
Yeah.
that was another challenge.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, Missouri में ठंड. Yeah.
बिल्कुल. Snowfall also a bit.
Yeah, everybody was posting pictures, right? Labasna wali.
Yes,
Yeah, I saw
sir.
those.
Yes sir.
Right.
Thank you everyone, and thank you students. So Baki will keep having such sessions in due course of time.
There was this announcement. I think we're having a session on 21st Shekhar?
Yes,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Huh.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be having a session with one of our top secretaries.
We are from the former coal secretary of India,
Yes, Mr.
right?
Anil Swarup.
Anil
Okay.
Swarup, right? So that's at what time?
11 to around 11
Yeah,
a.m.
11 a.m. So I think those who are here, I think would love to have an interaction with him as well. So we're trying to do this, right? Having more and more senior bureaucrats giving their viewpoints on the services. So that would be, I think,
Yeah.
very good thing which
Yes.
Sir is doing,
Yes.
right? Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Shivya. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.